What's going on, motorsports fans? This is Jared here with the Bearded Garagistas. I'm always with my brother Brett.
How you doing?
And today we have an awesome guest with some incredible stories and incredible past, and we're going to get to hopefully hear as many as we can before we all have to get out of here. So I'm introducing to you Mr. Ken Behr.
Howdy, howdy.
How's it going?
Great. Glad to be here.
We're very glad to have you here.
Oh, man,
Thanks.
thrilled.
Thanks. We're going to be talking about my favorite stuff.
Oh, yeah, this is going to be awesome. All right,
Yourself?
so
Myself and stories.
to kick it all off, what got you into racing? Is there something before racing that we should talk about, or do you want to start at racing and move forward?
No, I mean, I'm open to whatever you guys want to talk about. Well, I can tell you the story.
Hit me.
What got me into racing was I've always loved cars. Even as a kid, I always wanted to be around racing. There's three things I always wanted to be as a kid: a cowboy, a secret agent, and a race car driver.
Sounds good to me.
Right. Well,
That's a
some people
good
say they
three,
want to
man.
be. Well, some people say they want to be a police officer, a fireman. A cowboy's in there, but those are the three things I wanted to do.
Right.
And I grew up on a farm, so I kind of grew up riding horses and having cows and stepping in cow shit, as a little kid, and cow pies as we call them. And it was a great Norman Rockwell life. You grew up in 1950s, early 60s. I was born in 1957, so that's a lifetime ago. Huh? And so, that was that Norman Rockwell upbringing. And so once I got to Florida and in 72, 73, my mother moved us here to get us away from, we had lived in New Orleans for a while, to get us away from the city life and the drugs, and moved us into sunny South Florida, right in the middle of the epicenter of the marijuana explosion and drug smuggling. So yeah, he couldn't have landed, like I say, it's the Palo Alto at the time, which it was, but it was South Florida. So little known trivia question: what South American country is closest to the South Florida border? Came up in trivia the other day. Colombia. Who would have thought it, right?
Ah.
So, so I started selling drugs and helping out drug smugglers and running around like that. And I just got enough money where I wanted to do something. I bought a jet ski, and then I souped up the jet ski, and I started riding. I just love speed. I always loved speed. And I broke my leg on my jet ski. So I was stuck in a cast for 6 months. I had a cast from my hip to my toes. So while I was there, sitting on the couch, in a combination of cannabis and opioid-induced coma, trying to survive a broken leg.
That sucks.
I mean, so the cast was so solid that basically even to use the bathroom, I'd have to open up the vanity and stick my foot in. There was no way to get around. And so when I finally got the cast down, I had went out and bought this thing. I still had a cast on. It was this Honda Odyssey. And we used to race them at Hialeah Speedway on this dirt track, so oval dirt. And somebody said, hey, you want to... So I did that. I bought one to do that. I want to try racing. And they made the roll cage out of electrical conduit.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's not...
What?
It wasn't exact. So one guy rolled one, and we all saw what happened, like a crush.
We're like, all right, let's actually make a real one now.
Yeah, so, and I never went out there, and this kid comes up, he goes, you ever done this before? I said, no. He goes, okay, you start in the middle. When you get to the turn, you drop down low and let it feed up.
Okay.
Drop down low and let it feed up. So I said, okay. I went out there and I was good. I did it. It was great. And a couple races later, I made the podium. And I had way less equipment than everybody else. And a couple guys wrecked, and I got it. I said, I can do this. So again, laying on the couch, I'm skipping through some car magazines, and I see Skip Barber Racing School.
Okay.
And I go, when I get out of this cast, I'm going to Skip Barber.
Yeah.
And of course, they had Sebring. So I went up there. I still had my pants cut from where the cast was.
Right.
The guy goes, what's with your pants? I said, I just got out of a cast about a week ago. And I went out there, and I had some great instructors. If you go back into the history of auto racing instructors, there's a lot of these guys are still working today. Mm-hmm. Bruce McGinnis is like Skip Barber's #1 instructor. He was such a great Formula Ford driver that they actually, Auto Week didn't put him on the cover.
Okay.
Wow.
And he took out an ad when he was going to quit Formula Ford, and it showed him with women draped around him sitting in his racing suit.
Well, now you definitely want to be a race car driver.
And he says, it says, don't let this stud go out the pasture. So he was marketing. Because listen, in racing, if you're not raising money, you're not racing. So I had Walt Bowen, who's a phenomenal driver, and I had Mike Rand and Terry Irwood, who actually was running the new Skip Barber. when Skip Barber went into bankruptcy, he pulled the Terry Irwood has been a driving instructor to almost everybody that's ever raced.
Really?
If you go to NASCAR and you see all these NASCAR drivers, they all went through Skip Barber to learn how to road race.
Huh.
I mean, some of the greatest drivers, Kyle, anybody. Plus, we were there. There'd be stars would show up. Like you'd find yourself standing next to, like I forgot one time it was Loggins or Messina, Loggins and Messina, whatever. But I went to Skip Barber and I did it. I was really good at it.
Right.
And so they had a racing series that after you went to the school in Formula Fords, you could do that. And I did that. And I won a couple races. And I just, as I had money, the racing bug, somebody said it's the most fun you can have with your clothes on. And it's probably more expensive than almost anything else.
Right.
So, and so I kept making money and going racing. And I just go on and kept climbing the ladder, and
Coming to Florida, how easy was it to be seduced by the drugs and the smuggling? Like how easy was it to get sucked in?
It was everywhere. You couldn't turn. Well, you couldn't sell drugs in Florida very easily because everybody else was selling them. You could not. I mean, I try to explain to my wife. My wife is much younger than me and very protected and very, sharp as a tack, but doesn't understand that world.
Right.
And I tried to explain to her. I never got in trouble as a kid. I never skipped school. But me and my friends that got into this, we were the Randy Lanier, the Whittingtons, all those guys. They were one notch above us in their generation. They were older.
Okay.
So we would start selling. I started selling pot at 13. By 16 or 17, we were just all doing it. Everybody in high school, and like my one friend's dad was the lieutenant of the police department. Everything from postman to normal. It was just you couldn't turn, and most of it was pot.
Right.
Coke wasn't there yet.
That's how you got the money to get the Odyssey and race and all that stuff?
Just all selling. Yeah, I didn't have a job. I never put a suit and tie on until the judge told me I had to go to court. I had to go to court for the first time I got busted, and I didn't know how to make a tie.
Damn.
Somebody had to help
wow.
me. And I was probably, at that age, I was 30-something.
Jeez.
Damn.
Yeah. I started, I ran.
What's your resume look like? It's like the first 30 years of
It's
your
empty.
life blank. Race car driver.
Race car.
Yeah, that's good.
Multiple teams.
Yeah, you know what I mean? No, the first part of it's obvious. It says cowboy, secret agent, race car driver. That's it, man.
That works.
I even have the racing suit, right? It's a 3-layer Nomex suit. People don't understand how dangerous racing is, but when you see those cars, like we're wearing a 3-layer Nomex suit with Nomex underwear. On the suit, it tells the driver, it's a disclaimer, and it says basically it's good for a minute and a half. It's 30 seconds a layer.
Yeah, well, back when you were racing, cars were catching fire all the time.
Well, yeah. I mean, even before, but now it's a lot safer, But so you wear the suit, and it's so I tried to put it on a couple of years ago for Halloween. I thought I would, it's tough fitted, and I was like I'm not much. I'm actually the same size I was since high school.
Yeah.
40 short, 32 waist. I've been the same size, but putting on the suit, I guess I was in better shape. I swear I was floating around like the Michelin Man. I was like, honey, cut it off. So when we all think about going racing, Rennie and I talk about it, who we had on the show, and everybody else, I go, well, first I have to send the suit back to Simpson, I guess, and have
Try to get tailored a little bit.
a little or something. Yeah. And
so you in the school, how do you think that school's still around?
Well, Skip Barber, he eventually sold it. It folded with the new owners, but then Terry Irwood and some of the other guys
still
got
running
investors. Yeah, it's a great way to go.
Still recommend it?
So I have a friend of mine right now that his father bought a Porsche Cup.
Okay,
and they're going to go out and run it. And they got fast cars. They race them on the track.
right.
Just doing lapping time days. 200-mile-an-hour Corvette. I said, but have you ever been in a race? See, there's two things. You can be a fast driver is one thing.
Right.
But racecraft is another.
Yeah, when you could tell that, like, I've never raced on a circuit race, but I have in a video game. I know it's like completely.
No.
I know it's completely different, but it's kind of the same because when I'm on the track and I'm doing a qualifying lap, it's not easy, but it's a lot easier when you start stacking in 3-4 cars around you, and now you have to be wary of where you are on the track, find your braking point, know when you're going to turn in,
being out
check
there,
your mirrors,
just going and pushing it takes a lot of focus and quick decisions.
Right.
When you then got 19, 30, 40 cars around you.
Yeah.
That's even
It's a whole different thing.
multiplying exponentially how fast you got to make those decisions.
That's something they teach you at the school?
Well, you develop it, through. So anyway, it's really important to know who's next to you.
Right.
Like I've gone through turns, me and another, other racer, and we just knew each other. You do death-defying moves because you know the guy that you're racing with, and that's important. But they do teach you some of that. They teach you, but you learn it. Here's what you learn. You learn the more you spend time in the car. Two things. If someone was going to ask me what's the best way to hone your racecraft, one is to, I always say start out an open wheel. And that's what I told my friend.
Really?
I said, listen, you guys have been racing full-bodied cars and tracking them. Go to Skip Barber, go to Bertle Roos, go to some place where there's open wheel, and you can just go through their class for 3 days. If you spend $4,000 or $5,000 to do that, or whatever the price is between hotel, the instructing school, you'll have so much more racecraft when you come back, because open wheel, when you're in an open wheel cockpit, you can watch those tires out there, and you can you just watch them folding and bending under the G forces. One of the things I said to you earlier, I said I'm not good at go-karts, because go-karts are flat, and so it's different in a race car, like in a road racing car like that, a circuit car. You might know that there's a little dip in the road right there, and you're going to drop that right front tire. Maybe you're doing 130 through the turn, but you want to just hit that one little corner with the tire and try to get it to grab. I mean, that's why I like road racing versus go-kart track. And I've been on some really great smooth road race, like Tamiami IndyCar track. That old track was like, you could hit it was like glass.
Right.
But Watkins Glen, Road America, Mid Ohio, they all have their little undulations and their little road,
little nuances that you kind of have to learn over the time.
If you go through that turn, the track is, is rough, so it'll make the car shift, and you can get it to shift and rotate.
Right.
And,
learn how to use it. Yeah,
you want to learn how to use it. So I think open wheel, here's the other reason I always suggest to go to open wheel first, because kind of like driving a car, once you learn on a 5-speed, you can always drive a 5-speed. Open wheel is something that once you start in full body, you'll probably never go do, because it's just so much more dangerous. It's so much more, it's just a different thing. So I always advise people, start in open wheel and learn some craft, or start in...
Because the consequences are higher in open wheel.
Yeah, but I mean, even like if you're racing Miatas, the Miata spec class, which is great. I have a Miata spec racer for sale.
Nice plug.
Yes. I left out the phone number, 954-243-5458, but that's...
There you go.
Yeah. So, sorry, guys.
No, you're good. That's perfect. That's what we made this
So
for.
if I said it again, no, just kidding.
Anybody wants a Miata race car, you call us. One. We'll get you in touch with Ken.
That's right. It's a great deal. So that's a great way to go pack racing, right? But even if you do that, and then like I had a guy call the other day, I guess his son's the new phenom. I mean, the kid, just what he described to me was amazing. So I said, well, take him Miata racing so he can learn racecraft, and send him to an open wheel school so he can learn more about watching the tires, like all the donuts.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
And more about sitting in the cockpit. It's a whole different thing. You're sitting there, your legs are touching. You have your controls. You have sway bar controls, brake bias controls. So. But
you seemed to have skill the second you got behind a race car. Did you have skill the second you got behind a wheel?
Yeah.
At all? Was it street cars too?
Street cars. So my first car, I remember my friends I grew up with in New Orleans were really wealthy. They got Trans Ams and Porsches. Right. So I didn't have that kind of money. My family, my father had passed away right after we moved to New Orleans, and we came from an upper middle class family. But so my mother took me to buy a Fiat 128 coupe.
Okay.
And it was it is a 2-door, four-seater 2-door, yeah. And I didn't like the car. I mean, my friends had 911s.
Yeah, and you got a Fiat.
Yeah. So the salesman gets in the car and goes, come on, I'll take you for a ride. He drives down the street, ripping the shifter, it's a manual, spins it around and comes back. And I get out of the car and I go to my parents, my mother, and I go, I'll take it. The guy knew how to sell me. I'm going to take this 15-year-old kid. And I started driving at 14 in New Orleans. So at 15, I got a car.
Damn.
So yeah, that's the other thing. I've been driving a little bit now.
Yeah, I think at 15 I was going to get my dad's cigarettes in the van, but that was like literally drive down the block, drive around, come back.
It was just this, the South at the time, I guess. I mean, Florida's 15, right? 16.
15 permit, 16 license.
Yeah.
So New Orleans was 14 permit, 15 license.
Damn.
Yeah. So and then it turned out you could eat Quaaludes and drive around at 16. Oh well, not legally, but who knew? So
That's awesome.
So anyhow, that car handled great.
Right.
And I started driving the tires off it. And I mean, my friends would go, one of my friends once said about me, he goes, "You're the only person I know that slows down in the straightaways and speeds up in the turns." I literally changed the radio dial. And I did crazy shit, like on a 2-lane road, I'd pass somebody and I'd go in the middle lane right between two cars coming, like a car coming each way.
Yeah.
I was not loved in the neighborhood.
I'm sure.
But, yeah, I was, me and my brother were those boys. But
older brother, younger?
No, younger. By the way, shout out to my brother Eric. He's a car guy. Just take a break. Listen to this. He's just bought he's got a 69 Firebird convertible he's had since college. He's got a 67 Firebird SS convertible that I got him because I'm in the car business, so I got it for him. He's got a 69 Mustang convertible.
Damn.
He's got an M6 that Rennie at Redline bumped up to about 600 horsepower.
Jesus.
Wait, I'm not done. He's got an 017 Grand Touring Corvette, a Grand Turismo, whatever.
Okay, yeah.
Right, and we're flying up, me and him and his father-in-law. He's flying us all up to Bowling Green, Kentucky, in June to pick up his 2020 fully loaded Corvette.
Oh,
C8.
C8. Oh,
so
man.
I mean, he's my hero.
Yeah, that's when I grow up, I want to be him.
Well, what I always say is I raised him well. You know what I mean? Dad wasn't around. I had to give him the old, and it was either, I taught him rock and roll music, and
he's got some nice cars. I'm not gonna lie.
So shout out to him. But so anyhow,
how do you
by the way, he
change the
sat in that
dial?
Fiat a lot of times. So he had some balls.
That's where he got his learning from.
I don't know. I went through a turn so fast, a radio dial turned one time. I used to deliver pizzas in it. So I delivered a pizza one time to this guy, and it was 1970s, right after Vietnam, and it was in Hollandale, and it was this old wooded area, and I go back there, and the guy comes out, and he's a hippie, man. He goes, and I opened up the trunk, and I pulled the pizza out, and he could feel it. I guess everything on top of the pizza had slid to one side.
Oh my God.
I guess I went through a turn, get there 30 minutes or less, whatever. It had slid to the point where the guy opens the box and he goes, "Wow, dude, it's cool. I like my pizza like that." And he just flips up, he goes, "Come on in, let's smoke some weed, dude." I brought some seeds back from Vietnam. And he had a plant growing in the living room. So, I'm like 16. I go,
sure,
take the tip.
Why not?
Yeah. And so anyhow, I drove the tires off that car. And going forward, when I started running drugs, we used a lot of rent-a-cars.
Wait, did he push the pizza back to the other side?
He flipped it over and made a calzone out of it, and just started eating it. It was honestly the largest
calzone ever
I've ever seen. Yeah,
that's great.
So then I got a job as a taxi cab driver.
Oh,
yeah, that was great. People how's it going back there? It's all right. We're not in a rush.
I'm gonna throw up.
Yeah,
roll down the window.
I remember taking some airline pilots from Fort Lauderdale, Miami Airport, and I guess they fell asleep. And I remember the guy waking up, and I was passing he goes, "Oh!" He goes, "Hey, buddy." I go, "Hey, man, relax, enjoy the ride," I flipped the pilots out.
So just whatever you could do to be behind the wheel.
Yeah. So and then with the rent-a-cars, we used to drive the tires off. I learned to do, I used to call it the Rockford. I don't know if you're too young to remember the Rockford files, but he would spin the car around, do a 360 or 180. You spin it around and go. You're going one direction, you flip it around, and you go. Yeah. So I used to practice that on the rent-a-cars, just flipping them all over town.
man.
With people in the car just begging me to pull over.
Oh, jeez.
So again, I was just always a wheelman.
So if you ever get in a rent-a-car with Ken, you just want to make sure you have insurance on the rent-a-car.
You grab that oh shit handle.
Exactly. Or rent the spec so that it really has no power.
There you go.
Now you can rent to see all these high performance cars now.
Right.
Yeah. So that.
Yeah, I think my buddy rented a Mustang one time, but they had a governor on it. Wouldn't go fast.
No, they have the Hearst Mustang. Well, who knows what they have? But I remember in LA, I was out there earlier in the year, working again in cannabis. Strangely enough, I'm back in it.
Working. Yeah. Is it weird to know that you went. A lot of people went to jail. Some people went to prison for something that's legal now.
So I walked in. I remember walking into the cannabis convention in Orlando. It's funny you should bring that up. And it was the most amazing thing. And there's like thousands of people, all the vendors. It's in the largest convention hall in Orlando.
Wow.
You have to get lanyards, and there's $400 entrance fee. And I look up and I see this big sign, "Welcome to, the cannabis convention." And I'm sitting at the escalator looking up thinking, Randy Lanier did 27 years in jail. And I'm walking into this convention right now.
Right.
Yeah.
Because he, to know that he's such a great guy, and to think what happened. And my other friend did 10 years. I was looking at 25 years. I mean, it's insanity. And most of it, the laws were set up. It was all to control, it was all about money. And I mean, marijuana, everybody knew that marijuana wasn't bad for you.
Right.
It was a political thing.
Right.
This is about politicians. Richard Nixon, if you follow the history, there's a whole book that Dan Baum, I think, wrote. And it's, God, I can't think of the name of it, but he's the author. But it's about basically how the drug war was set up to as a political thing.
Right.
And
It goes back even after that. I mean, I'm a historian, so it goes before marijuana really had the stigma. Hemp had the stigma because businesses were worried that hemp paper would be cheaper. And I mean, it has been a long time where
Hearst pushed you're right.
There you go.
Hearst pushed the law because he owned a bunch of remember back in the day, the newspapers were the internet of today.
Yeah, Hearst
hey, every
controlled
paper boy,
everything.
get your paper here,
Yeah.
And William Hearst, you're absolutely right. I've read the same thing. I've talked to William myself. But he no. Shout out to my older brother, who's a New York socialite. He's friends with the Hearst. But
Wow.
that's
I thought you were joking,
Damn,
man.
you get around, Ken.
No, not me. No, listen, so I remember telling my mother, I said, listen, if Alan gets in the paper, it's on TV, that's a really good thing, Mom. And if Eric, he makes the newspaper, he gets on TV or radio, that's a good thing. If I do that, if you see my name, that's a really bad thing. And
I almost threw out the Hearst name too, but I didn't want it to go over the head of too many people.
No, right,
That's awesome. That
So
you
yeah,
were able to
he
catch on to
didn't
that.
want the newspaper. He was afraid. The guy invented a machine that could make hemp into newspaper, and
Yep.
Hearst got nervous about that, and
Yeah.
political money behind it. So that's the sad thing, that we still fight these laws today. When I fly out to California and Oregon, my friends are in the hemp business, in CBD and
Right.
biomass, and you see the laws, and it's hard to believe that you can basically sit down and smoke a joint or take CBD. Of course, CBD's got no THC.
No.
So, and we work in that. I work in that space. It's funny. So one of the biggest smugglers in U.S. history, along with Randy Lanier, was the guy I worked for. Was Donnie Steinberg. They did a book about him. The guy that wrote it's called The Underground Empire. He's one of the 3 drug organizations that they wrote about. He was in Playboy magazine, and I found him years later, looked him up, and he's in the cannabis business in California. We're friendly today again.
Yeah.
You
I
know?
mean, I think Lanier was the biggest United States bust.
Well,
At 70 million or something like that it was?
It's money wise, but I mean, I remember sitting with Donnie, and he would open up High Times, and High Times had the hit parade, the biggest bust of the month.
Oh,
And-
my God.
And you'd see like 200,000 pounds, 250,000, and you see Donnie going, God damn it. That was my ship. That was mine too. We did this trip from Thailand that I helped work on a little bit, and they brought a freighter in from Thailand full of Thai weed. I mean, it was like it's crazy stuff these guys did. Let me tell you, smart.
Oh, yeah.
Smart,
Well, you have to be to pull something like that off.
Exactly. If you talk, and these guys didn't do it once, they did it repeatedly over and over and
Right.
over again.
How much was racing tied to these drugs back then?
Well, to me, the drugs paid for the racing. I mean, listen, IMSA was called the International Motorsports Association, was nicknamed the International Marijuana Smuggling Association. So, and little plug out, I'm writing a book called One Step Over the Line.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason it's called that is because even as I was a kid, and I look back at the innocence of 13 and little kid going into this, I realized that we all had just taken one step over the line.
Right.
None of us were criminals. We all said, well, when we turn 18, we'll go to college. And back then, if you were under 18, you were a juvenile, and you couldn't get, you could get your record expunged. You wouldn't go to jail. Now they put kids in jail, that's because you need the prison system to work, the GO group. A plug out to the GO group. You're doing a great job of building prisons, guys, and keeping all those guys in jail and lobbying to keep the marijuana laws in place. And so they're right here in Boca.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, they are.
So stock's probably a little down right now, boss. So anyhow.
Savage. Ken's a savage. If you haven't figured that out by now, Ken.
Oh, yeah, the filter. Where's the filter?
That's okay. You don't need a filter.
No,
Not on this show.
No. So anyway,
big tie between. Well, you weren't the only one.
No,
So then there was a bunch, but was there
bunch.
always almost every team, or was it a few teams, or?
No. What it would be is, so you had the old school families like the Unsers and the Braytons and the John Cox and Tony George from the Holmans, which is owns Indianapolis Speedway, and they were all legit people. They had family money. I used to race with all those guys, the kids of the racers. I mean, when you're running with Tony George and he owns Indianapolis Motor Speedway,
right?
And his godfather's AJ Foyt, so
Jeez.
Yeah, and then when Colin Truman, his father owned Bobby Rahall's IndyCar team.
Oh man!
And now Bobby Rahal owns an IndyCar team.
So you got
That's
people like
crazy.
that are like born and bred into racing, and
right.
then you have a bunch of people that are using smuggling
Right.
to run their
Did
team.
they have any suspicion? Like
Oh,
when you're outside of
shit.
Florida,
Everybody did.
So
They were
here's-
calling them out. They were
here-
calling people out.
I'll tell you the story. So I went to Skip Barber. I paid in cash. And I told everybody, well, I have family money, inheritance.
Yes.
Yeah, it's
Good.
possible.
Yeah, it's possible.
Sure, except for when you're running with the people that really do have family money and inheritance. They have real money. So one day I'm testing the Skip Barber car. We're doing Mid Ohio, and I'm in a red Skip Barber car, and right behind me is Mario Andretti in his red Lola, the Beatrice Foods car.
man.
Right? And I can hear the engine running behind me, and I'm saying, Mario's so cool. He's a great driver, world's greatest driver, in my opinion. And they had the loudspeaker at Mid Ohio, and they start playing Smuggler's Blues, and I'm sitting in the car,
man.
and I go, it doesn't mean much, there's lots of people. And one of the instructors looks in, he goes, man, you were really quick out there today. He goes, then all you guys from Florida are quick. And that's the day I realized I'm not fooling anybody.
Nah, everybody
I'm
knows.
flying there. I'm renting nice hotel rooms. I'm dropping $5,000 and $6,000, in a weekend in stacks of $100 bills. You know what I mean? Like,
Jesus.
yeah, the inheritance. Well, it was kind of in the, it's like what did I inherit? Al Capone's safe.
Yeah.
What the hell? So, looking back, and so then what happens is, you start thinking, God, my heroes are these guys, and these guys know that I'm not
Right.
what I'm doing, and so it was kind of bittersweet, right? You always wanted to be next to these famous drivers and race with them, and I did race. I raced with the kids of the drivers.
What? I have a weird thing about that because they got there because they were born and bred into it, right? So apparently they should be the cream of the crop. And then when I look at something like somebody who didn't have that same upbringing, wasn't groomed to be in there, and use what you did your way to get into it, and you guys are taking it to them. Right, you got on some podiums, won some races. You got the Lanier at
Lanier won the IMSA championship.
Yeah, IMSA
and,
championship,
Indy
Rookie of the
racing.
Year,
Yeah,
Indy
yeah.
racing. You got the Whittington
Whittington's
brothers go to Le
dominating
Mans.
Le
They
Mans.
win Le Mans.
Yeah.
So like, how do the other drivers, in your opinion, how do they feel getting beat by someone who wasn't?
Did they recognize your racecraft while
Like
Yeah,
they
well, I think
obviously
so.
looked down on you because you were doing what you were doing.
Right.
But I mean, as a race car driver,
Yeah,
you were
I was
credible.
capable. I was credible. I was capable. I think. Well, I remember hearing some comments from when Randy. They did a documentary, did some interviews about him, or they did. I think it was an article, and some of the guys said, "Well, he had more money than everybody else." Dude. He didn't have more money than Porsche, Jaguar, BMW, and
No.
he didn't have more money than the factory
sure.
teams.
And you could have
By the way-
we had somebody on literally a couple weeks, Lewis, and he was like, "Yeah, you could have the fastest car in the world, but if you can't drive, you ain't worth shit."
right.
So it's kind of the same thing.
And you can't take anything away from, certainly not what Randy did. Randy, like I said, he took a little privateer, Now he hired the greatest, probably one of the great mechanics, Keith Layton, I think it was, who ran his car. So he got top guys.
Right.
But I remember guys, I'd go by a body shop and I see people painting his race car like a little warehouse, you know, painting noses and stuff. You know, I remember Bob Aiken's son. Bob Aiken ran the Porsche 962 Coca-Cola car.
Okay.
And rich money, you know, he had a big business in upstate New York. And the kid and I are talking, and he goes, so you're from Hollywood, Florida? I go, yeah. He goes, oh, well, you know, that's where Randy Lanier from, you know. And I said, yeah. He said, I'm friendly with the family. He goes, you know, what does he do? I go, they own a jet ski rental. You know, and of course and he goes,
Technically,
dude,
they had a boat rental service. That's what they said.
No, they did have a jet ski rental, but the guy goes, dude, a nose cone for his car is $5,000. You're trying to tell me? I go, well, they're busy jet ski rentals. And, you know,
He's in Florida.
Yeah, you know, people do it all day long. But I mean, I said he has other businesses too, you know. But and I tried to downplay it, but I understood what he was saying.
Yeah.
Once you, like you said before we were recording, like there was a little naivety on your part, like when you first were meeting these people, that they had suspicions. Once you finally grasped that they knew where the money was coming from, did you have any self-doubt, any, you know, feeling a certain way because you weren't necessarily on the up and up?
I think by the time I figured it out, it was almost, you know, I'd almost died, you know. I mean, I was in the middle of it all. I don't think I even gave a shit, you know. I mean,
I guess once you're that deep in, you really don't care.
Yeah, I mean, I was like, you know, I want to race, and you know, I'm trying to be. Everybody's trying to get to the next level where they can become maybe, you know, a GTP driver. I had a lot of friends that were Camel Lights, GTP. Some of the guys moved up to. A bunch of the guys I raced with went to Indy. I mean, my teammate, who was not my teammate, other than we both raced for Lola,
right?
You know, for a Lola, and he was a factory Lola driver. I was paying.
Damn.
But he came in third at Indy, you know, in the IRL days, you know, when Cheever won, you know, after Cart separated, but he was still a great driver.
Yeah.
And his father came in 10th, you know, generations before. So my mechanic at the time, Mike Cannon, who I, you know, went to their shop and hired them to, you know, run me. I didn't know who he was. It turned out his father was a famous Formula 2 driver and a phenomenal Can-Am driver, and John Cannon and Mike Cannon. I'm actually going to go up Monday with Rennie. I called Rennie up. I said, take the day off. We're going to Sebring to watch.
I don't think you have to twist Rennie's arm to go to Sebring.
No, so we're going to go because they're all a bunch of 14 IndyCar teams or so. We're going to be there testing.
Wow.
So I got Mike. I said, Mike, I sent him a picture of all of us that
Can
was
I
going
come?
on. Yeah. Well, there's a picture that was been flipping around from all of us back in the day together at like a banquet, and Mike is there. I'll tell you so Tony Dow is in the picture. Tony Dow was big in the Jaguar TRW team and the Nissan program, the GTP team. And he also worked for Carl Haas. There's Steve Knapp in the picture. Steve Levinson is a race mechanic, been racing all the way from the first days of Skip Barber to today, running cars.
It's a small world.
Yeah, it's just like all these guys. So I sent it to Mike, and you know, so we said, come on up to Sebring. I'll be there Monday. We'll hang out for a minute, which he said basically just a minute. But I'm going anyway.
Okay.
He's the race day engineer for Scott Dixon now. For
damn.
Ganassi. So, you know, we've met at the track.
That's a big name, man.
Yeah. So, he was doing Ferrucci last year. So I digress though. But
Ferrucci's pretty awesome.
Kid's great.
That boy's got an attitude over.
Wait. So I
Europe,
said,
though.
So I'm talking to Mike. I go, hey, Mike, you know, nothing personal. Oh, here's something Rennie will tell you that the older you get, the faster you were. Like in 2 more years, I'll be faster than Schumacher. Okay. So I go, Mike, I'm on the phone with him the other, you know, last year. And I go, you know, listen, man, with those big tires and you got so much downforce and, you know, all the electronic add-ons, you know, I go, come on, man. You know, I mean, he goes, Kenny, because he knows how bad I was, you know, to every mechanic, you're never any good.
Right.
And he goes, we have telemetry now that shows us that Ferrucci's doing 218 miles an hour around Indy in a full slide. You know, like full drift.
Yeah.
And I go, yeah, no, I wasn't.
Holy shit.
See, that's
he's really good, but
Yeah.
if you ask like the Europeans, because he went over there and did Formula 3 and Formula 2, I think he did both, definitely Formula 2. And he was the bad boy. He was that American who walked up and I own everything and
Wild
I'm the best
haircut,
thing.
yeah. Kinda happens.
And but in IndyCar, he seems to have
I'm more
straightened
shocked
out.
on the 218
He
with
was
the
Rookie of the
telemetry that
Year.
could tell you when you're in a full slide.
Yeah.
He was Rookie of the Year last year, I think, in IndyCar.
He was up for it. So I'll tell you a funny story. So I was at a Skip Barber testing day again, going back to the first days. And we're at Sebring, I think, again. And Skippy comes up to me, goes, "Hey Kenny, we want you to get into this car." I said, "All right." And he goes, "Here's what you're going to do. There's a toggle switch on the dash. We have this gentleman here has put a telemetry, try to explain, a thing."
Right.
He goes, "And what you're going to do is you're going to go around, do a lap. When you get to the finish line, we want you to flip it on and then do a hot lap. And when you come through, flip it off at the exact same time." Now, think about that in today's world. Right, this was one of the first telemetry systems. It didn't send the telemetry to. Now
they recorded it in the car.
Right, it's not like it's sending it to the
Right.
pits. But even now, if you get into like the newest systems coming out, are going to be a camera with telemetry. There's a new one coming out that puts a graph of all the other drivers, like a ghost draft, over your lap, so you can actually see what everybody else was doing compared to what you.
Wow.
I mean,
Damn.
it's
Technology nowadays, I've been watching the Formula One testing, and they have that windscreen that they're putting on the sides of the cars, that grating that catches the wind.
Yeah, I didn't
and
see
then
it.
based on
Right,
how
right.
the wind comes off the aero kit, it catches into that screening, and they can tell by how much wind is in one of those blocks and how fast the wind is moving. And they could tell like where it's having a problem in the middle
It's kind
of
of
the
like
turn and stuff.
a mobile wind tunnel. So
Yeah.
like a real
Unreal.
on the car wind tunnel versus
Right.
putting the car in. Yeah.
But that's unreal.
Yeah. So no, the technology. So
What was the technology back when you drove?
well, I'm saying.
Just go ahead and go fast.
Well, no, but I'm saying to manually turn that switch on and off would
Right.
be so much archaic to electronically.
Oh, yeah.
In the thousandths of a second turning it on and off. So the inside of a Formula car really was basic. If you see old Formula One cars like from the 70s,
Oh, yeah.
that's basically what I was in. You had a steering wheel, you had a fire button, you had brake bias, which is real important, and then sway bars front and rear, and that's about it. They might have gotten into maybe some shock adjustments that not in what I did, but I know maybe later on. But that's it. So the driver's doing it all. You're taking a chance. I remember racing in the Grand Prix in Miami and doing the Skip Barber Pro cars, which are basically Formula Atlanta cars with a little skinnier tire
Right.
and about 20 less horsepower. And, you're going down, and they have those concrete, barriers,
Yep. Right.
which it's freaky in its own right. If you ever, I've done a lot of street racing because you're in a Formula car, you're below the barrier.
Right.
You don't see around turns. You don't see anything because you're in a tunnel. And what happens is as the day goes on, the dirt where the forklift picks up the barriers, dirt will slide underneath there, especially when a pack of cars come along
Right.
at 100 and
Sucks
something
it
miles an
out.
hour, sucking it right underneath. So all of a sudden you're in like a pack of 7 cars and you go hit the brakes and your front brakes are locking up. So you got to quickly dial your brake bias back to the rears, and then maybe you'll wait until you get down to the back and maybe dial them up. I didn't like to play with it too much. You're pretty busy. There's maybe like if you watch a normal IndyCar or Formula One guy now, they're on the steering wheel adjusting.
Bro,
yeah.
I don't understand how they
It's
remember
they're
all
playing
that.
a video game while
Yeah.
they're
Well, that's
racing.
what they do. They
Yep.
sit in race simulators so if you get in a race car and you're racing a couple races a year, your racecraft is going to be a little sketchy, right?
Right.
Right.
But if you're able to go into multiple cars and be constantly racing, but your racecraft becomes really finally home. When I watch the Formula One guys or you watch Indy guys, I know that there's no rusty time,
Yeah.
No.
They're in simulators, they're doing all this, and they have to in Formula One, right? Because they don't
Yep.
have that much track time.
See, what's funny is like
Not a
I'm
lot of
thinking to
practice.
myself, like, I'm thinking to myself, and I'm like, well, you got all these drivers that, like in NASCAR, they'll go do the Truck Series.
Right.
You got IndyCar drivers that'll go out to
GTP and
GTP, and they'll do Le Mans, they'll do Bathurst, they'll
Right.
go out to the Bathurst 1000.
By the way, I don't know if they call it GTP anymore, but we know what we're talking
Well,
about.
yeah, but like my thing is like I always thought they were doing it just to make more money, and now I'm thinking about it, and like they're probably doing it for wheel time too.
Yeah.
Like it for them, they'd rather be behind a
The
real
Formula
wheel than
One
a sim
drivers
wheel.
definitely don't have that option.
No.
I mean they
No.
don't.
Well, they
their
all sim
season's
race.
really long, but they sim race.
They all sim race. I
But
don't
even
think
when they're
crazy.
not, at the office sim racing for, let's say, Red Bull, right? When Max Verstappen walks into Red Bull, he's sim racing, right? Then he goes home. You know what he does?
Sim races.
He sim races
On
on his
iRacing.
home.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
And
Well, it's funny is that Lando Norris did a video on YouTube, and he wouldn't let you into the sim racing facility at McLaren. They have a whole room for it.
Yeah.
And I remember watching videos because when I was starting to get into sim racing, I would watch like what's the most expensive sim racing rig setup?
Yeah,
like,
right,
why
right.
not?
Yeah.
Let's just look at it. I'll never be able to afford it, but it.
How much was it?
Millions. Like 5 million, I think.
Wow.
Was
To
the
the point
most
where it
that I
will-
saw.
Yeah.
It'll
It moves.
move.
It's a car.
Well, I mean, it's the same thing as if you look at it like on those F-16 or F-35 simulators.
Right,
It's the same.
exactly.
Or the NASA ones. I have a
Exactly.
friend of mine, one of the car dealers that I'm good friends with. He has a sim in his house. He's got a simulator in his house. What I mean is, full sit in it,
Right.
and it moves. But he paid like 40 grand. It's an $80,000 simulator.
But that's still a lot of
No,
money.
of course, but
I mean,
it was used. But then he had to upgrade it. He had to pay $5
Yeah,
grand.
but I trained in the military, and we had a simulator for the Humvees and the big
Right,
trucks.
Right.
Shit.
Yeah.
It was like it was shit. It was a 2D screen. I didn't know where I was going. It was,
I know.
It was a joke.
I'll tell you something. My older brother's an attorneys, and they did this thing years ago where they flew him to Quantico. There was a game called Mortal Kombat,
Yeah.
and they wanted to take it and use it for tank simulator. So they got my brother had to fly down to Quantico, sit in a dark room, and as a lawyer, he had to sign off on every code change they changed on the game, so
Really?
they could convert it into a tank simulator. And this is again like 30 years ago.
Right.
Now
Wow.
they don't have to. They have their own. But you
Yeah.
talk about about as archaic as flipping the switch on the dashboard to do a simulator. But I did do so. I think there's a lot of that aid today, and I think it helps a lot. I mean, it's important. I mean, it helps. I mean, you can't. I'm sure that's a major part of their training.
Sure, I'm sure.
But nothing's going to take away from. I remember one time I was in my sports S2000, which is like a Can-Am car, smaller wheels, but same configuration, open cockpit, closed body.
right.
It looks just like a Can-Am car,
Right.
basically. And we're going through the Kink at Road America racing, and the Kink is, every turn has a white knuckle. Every racetrack, has a white knuckle turn.
Right.
It has one thing where you just, as a driver, you
You throw it in there
you're
and hope
hanging
to
on.
God.
Yeah, and so the Kink is it. You go through the carousel, which is a big sweeper, and the car is just up on its suspension. You just got to, you wouldn't believe it, but it does. It holds, and you're just flooring it, and then you're full speed into the Kink, and it's a flat out. And on one side it's a mountain and forest. On the other side's a guardrail, and down the other side of the mountain and the
man.
forest.
Jeez.
So you don't want to lose it there. You watch IndyCar races, you'll see guys
Yep.
lose it there, or GT, sports car races, and there's like 4 or 5 of us in a pack, and we're going, and I have cars in front of me, cars on each side of me, car behind me, and I feel my steering wheel just go like this.
Ooh.
Because there's no front tires touching the ground,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
And I
Complete
snap
lock.
it right back, yeah. And luckily we all made it.
Jeez.
But if
That's
I would have
crazy.
not made it,
4 of you would have not made
4 or
it.
5 cars would have just been disintegrated, at 100 and something miles an hour. Not that fast.
What's your favorite? What was your favorite car to drive?
The Sports 2000 was incredible because the faster it went, just the more stable it got. It's just a real competitive series. That's the best young drivers we all raced against in the Sports 2000 Pro Series back in the 80s. They were great drivers. John Fergus, who went on to be the GTU champion. His son now is racing Porsche Cup. There was Calvin Fish was in it. Scott Goodyear was in it. Calvin's, you'll see him. He's the announcer he does a lot of race day announcing for some of the channel. Not as much as he used to, but
Right.
and they were a year ahead of me. But Scott Goodyear, he came in one of the closest finishes in Indy history. Came in
Yep.
second, and
Yep.
great driver. It was just, and again with me, there was Colin Truman, whose father owns Mid Ohio Racetrack and all of Red Roof Inns in America, and a racing family. His father raced, and
Who's the best driver you ever beat?
I don't know.
Oh, come on now.
I don't know.
Come on.
I can't say there's anybody. I mean, because when we got, honestly, as I went up, the equipment got more expensive, and I didn't have the money they had. I mean, you don't have
Right,
you don't have
right.
$20 million. Like my teammate had a full brand new Lola given to him by Carl Haas.
Oh.
And he was an engine builder, so every race he had a brand new engine.
Oh, Jesus.
You can't beat those. And his father was at one time came in as an Indy driver.
Yeah.
But I think
You got to beat your chest though and be like, I raced with those guys.
Oh yeah, I mean I beat up on when we had similar cars. I beat up on sorry Todd Brayton a bunch, whose brother had the record for the Indy 5, the fastest lap at Indy, and he got killed. And they also built Brayton Engineering built the Buick engines for Indy.
All right.
And Wally Johncock was I believe either Gordon Johncock's son or his nephew. So we raced because we had at that point in Skippy, we all had similar equipment. So we could. I remember one time going through Lime Rock, going to the downhill. I see Johncock going like this to me. And I keep seeing him do this. I go, what the hell is he doing? You know, I'm on his ass and I'm bringing up on him. And I'm pushing Brayton and we're all racing. And after the race, he goes, buddy, why don't you hook up with me? I go, I had no idea what that meant. Well, I didn't. Well, when you
To
live
me,
in
this
the,
means money.
right? When you live in the Indy, all your relatives are IndyCar drivers. I guess that means work with me.
Yeah,
because I was passing them and we were beating each other up. But just being there, man.
It's got to be an experience.
It was just feeling the speed and
Was it worth it? What you did to be able to race and
would you
repercussions?
have been able to race that way without?
No.
All right. So then, this follow-up question: was it worth it?
Listen, I wouldn't change anything.
My God.
Let me tell you, some of the things I did, in smuggling and in drug running was, I look back and I'm writing this book. One step over the line. I'm just kidding.
Listen, he says it's worth it. We're not saying to go do it. all
No,
right?
just be clear. Well, no. Listen, let me reword. So, especially when we did it, they got to a point where people got 10 and 20 years. In the beginning, when I started, here's what happened. When I started, you wouldn't get time like that. I remember a guy got busted on a ground crew. He went to Eglin Air Force Base.
I know that Air Force Base.
Right. Well, I mean, it had they have the level whatever 1 federal prison, and you can play tennis, and he went there as a ground crew guy and came out as a pilot because he went to flight school. I go Scooter. His name was Scooter. I go Scooter. They decided that you wouldn't get caught now. Now you'd be flying the plane versus catching the drug. And you get 2.5, 3 years at Club Fed, and then when you see what happened to like one of my partners did 10 years. Randy Lanier did 27.
That starts to kind of be like,
I got hit with racketeering, RICO law. That's a 25-year sentence, So, you don't.
So they didn't even get you for the smuggling. They got you for RICO.
Yeah. Well, I was running dope up to Ohio, and I'd done it for 12 years. We kept running carloads and, of pot up and other stuff up and down the highway. And they finally, my partner up there got busted, and he ratted me out. And so I went up there with.
I feel like that's always happens because that's how Lanier got caught.
Well,
Lanier disappeared, and then there was a bank robbery, and they tracked down the bank robbery money and all this other stuff to an accountant on some random island. I think in Antigua or something like that.
Yeah, that's where he was headed. Right?
So they found the accountant, and that's where he was. And then that accountant pretty much ratted out the 10 big names that he had, and one of them happened to be Lanier.
So right before he went on the run, I was at the jet ski rental. And he pulls up in this Mercedes, and it's kind of like beat up a little bit. And I was telling one of my buddies, "What's the deal?" Like, no, he's trying. The cops are watching him, so he beat the car up a little, like dirtied it up, and took the hubcaps off, so it looked like he was driving. Still driving a Mercedes, and he walks up to me, and I'm talking. I go, "Hey man, I'm racing Formula Fords. I'm working my way up, and that's everybody starts in Fords."
Yeah.
And he's like, "Great." He goes, "Listen, you know where my house is?" I go, "Yeah, I do." And he goes, go out there and get my trailer. There's a trailer on the side of the house. And I go, nah, I don't really need it. He goes, listen, you want a free car trailer? Just go get it. And I'm trying to, thank you. He goes, go get the trailer. and then like 4 days later, for one thing, every newspaper, everyone had a drug headline because that's what sold newspapers.
Right.
So it's, drug headline, Randy Lanier. And I go, yeah, I ain't going out to get the trailer. But he did tell me that day, he said, listen, if you really want to be fast, and this is some advice that I have to tell you really works. He goes, if you're racing this level, go rent a seat in a faster car.
Right.
Whether you just do testing or you do some, whatever type of racing you get into. And then when you drop back down, you're going to find how much faster and how much more racecraft you have. And it really works. I mean, I would tell anybody that wants to get into, is practicing, is racing maybe Miata, which is a great, great place to go, or whatever you're doing. Again, go into an open wheel car, get into a faster car, and just feel it. Just do laps. And when you drop back down, you're going to see how much more racecraft.
Probably slows things down.
Exactly.
Well, that's what happened when I played hockey. Because when I played hockey in the upper levels, when I was playing, because when I was a kid, I played a lot of travel hockey.
Yeah.
And I remember, like, when I was 16, I was playing against like 20-year-olds and adults and things like that. When I would play in the 20 and under, and playing against guys that are 3-4 years older than me, when I went back down to 16 under, 18 and under, it was easy. Like it was like everything slowed down. The puck moved slower. I was able to hit people. So I mean, it's got to be the same way with
Roller hockey, you're not supposed to hit people, bro.
Yeah. So you just break the stick. Yeah. So one of the things about being in a race car, and I don't know, like, so Sam Peckinpah, the movie director, he's a long time ago, but he made this movie, The Wild Bunch. And it was the first.
I know that.
It was the first movie where people get shot. I mean, today it's standard, and you would just see them, their bodies buckle and the blood come out, and all happen in slow motion.
Right.
And it was, and all his movies were so graphic, especially back before they, this is when, not far from, the old movies where, like people slept in separate beds.
Like they didn't have ratings and stuff back then.
So they asked him why, and he said he was shot. He got shot once. And he said when he got shot, everything happened in slow motion. And I've been in a race car before where I'm spinning or I'm hitting something, and I could literally watch the parts go off in slow motion. And going, man, that's expensive. Not that. No, geez. And then I go, crap, here comes the wall. Maybe it happened like that.
Yeah.
So I talk about that in my book,
That's
and I say, that it's really that way. Like I always wondered if somebody jumped off a 13-story, but remember 13 stories because it's very unlucky to be falling. So I also use. Do you see every person or everything on the way down? Like, not to bring up a sad story, but we just had this in the helicopter crash with Kobe and his beautiful daughter and those wonderful people.
Right.
They knew it was happening. How? I just know because it's things I've been through, the slow motion.
Like big wrecks.
Yeah, and, all the personal wrecks in my life, too. They seem to happen really slow motion. But, to say, God, what did they see? What the last thing? And I know this, so I always feel for when people, like, go plane crashes or things, I go, God, they saw it happening in slow motion.
Right.
And
that's 100%.
Sad, man.
Yeah.
He's 100% right, because every time I've
know.
wrecked the car, it's always been in slow motion.
Yeah, sometimes it happens pretty quick. I mean,
well, yeah, you watch the replays, but what I find interesting is when you watch like Formula One racers or NASCAR, and they have the in cockpit like camera, you could see them still trying to correct.
Yeah.
Even though the car is like flying off the road, and they're like all four tires might not even. The last
thing they're going to do is let go of the steering wheel.
Yeah, it's the last thing is they let go, and but they're fighting it all the way to the wall. Like you're not going to save that.
There's a famous video. It was from several years ago in Formula One where the wheels popped off, the whole suspension failed, and the driver's still sitting there going like, "There's no wheels on the car."
Yeah, but it's like instant.
So there's a news. I wrecked. I backed. I spun the Skip Barber car, one of the at the Miami Grand Prix, and I hit the back of the wall, and so I never told this story. So it came out on the cover.
Another
of the
bearded garagistas first.
Yeah, it came out on the cover of the Daytona Speedway News. Like in Daytona, there's a picture of me in the car. The whole back of the car is missing.
Gone.
Right, and I'm telling the corner worker, I'm going like this. What I'm telling him, nobody knows this, is give me a push. And the guy's leaning in going, buddy, you don't have any back. There's no tires on your car. And then what do you think I thought in slow motion? That's going to cost a lot.
Yeah, that's a lot of money.
That's $6,000. Christ I actually told Skippy, I'm taking the wing home because I lived in Miami. I threw it in the back of my truck. Yeah. And I had in the backyard, I had this big wing off the back of the Formula car just sitting in my garden. I was like, what are you doing with that? I paid a lot of money for that thing. One of these days, I'm going to hang it on my wall. I should, but never. It finally went the way of all things. But
that's funny.
I love every second of what I was able to do, and the fact that I can make such great friends in racing and still have them today, and still be part of I still do driving instructing, and Rennie and I donate our time to the Tire Rack BMW.
You do that with them?
Yeah, the child safety. Let the kids learn how to ride on skid pads and stuff. And I did a lot of driving instructing over the years for Ferrari clubs, Porsche clubs, Ford factory, hooked on driving. And I love going out there. I remember one time I had this cardiologist in this Porsche Boxster, which is a great car. And we're at Moroso, I guess they call them, was it IRP now?
No, PBI.
Palm Beach International Raceway.
Yeah, sorry, I'm an old timer. And he goes, I can't do this. And I said, listen, first thing I always tell him, I go, listen, you're here at a high performance driving school, right? I say, listen, I'm a race car guy. I'm a driver. I go, I'm going to teach you how to race. Just don't tell the rest of the people. And I take them out, and because you're not supposed to legal, I guess whatever reason, you can't say we're teaching to race. We're teaching you to high performance driving. And I'm like, bullshit. Let's go, guys. And so I had this guy this one time, and he said, I can't do this. I said, you listen to me, and I promise you're going to do this. And at the end of the day, he was doing it. Now, could he take that same skill set and go to another place? Probably not, because he's got cones, turn in, me going, hit that mark there, gas here, you know.
Yeah.
But he got to enjoy his car and do some racecraft.
Sure.
You know.
If there was one race car that you could have now, like the street legal race car, like McLaren, Lambo, well,
honestly, I hate to tell you this, but once you drive purpose-built race cars, there is no street legal race car. You either drive. We used
that
to, like,
big a difference.
Well, like Rennie, you know, who's a great driver, and you know, I used to joke around, you know, any car with fenders. You know, I used to say, when do you pull in and flip the cassette over?
Oh,
you know what I mean? I'm like, you know, so I mean, you guys have air conditioning in that when you're driving, but how does that work? So
there's still smack talk in horse race. It's just different smack talk.
Formula guys and it's kind of like powerboat guys and sailboat people. You know, they both like ocean, but none of them like each other.
That's
you know what?
funny.
Listen, I did a showroom stock race one time. I thought it was great. I mean, I don't care anything that drives, but a purpose-built race car is so much more. Well, look what you're doing. You're taking a street car and stripping it out and bolting racing parts on it, or you're taking a car that some engineer designs from the ground up, and it's 1,100 pounds or 1,600 pounds, and it's got, you know, it's just a different thing. Probably though, back to your question, one of my favorite race car to drive ever was Swift DB1. So the DB1 was when Formula. I like the Crosley F35 and the F55 were both real neutral, great handling cars. Those are the ones Skip Barber used, and I drove some other Crosleys. Right. But the Swift DB1, it was the most incredible car. It changed Formula Ford, and it was designed by David Braun, that's why it's called the DB, and it was his first car he ever. And he ended up designing Indy cars and a lot of other stuff over the years, but. It was 001, and I drove chassis number 001.
Oh,
that
wow.
It was the first one.
Crazy.
It was owned by Brayton. I rented it from Todd Brayton, and then I wrecked it really bad. I had to buy it from him. Well, that was the deal. He goes, you wreck it, you buy it. So I'll tell you that story quick. So then Jeff Andretti had it before that. I mean, it was the car. Tony George had one. He had one of the only other ones, you know, from Indianapolis Speedway. It was the car. I remember following Tony, and I was in a Crosley, and I was trying to follow him through Mid-Ohio, and he did this move, and I tried to do it, and the car just spun right off the track. There was no way I could keep up with it.
Wow.
It just handled so much better.
Wow.
So, excuse me. So that was probably one of my most favorite race cars.
That's pretty cool. How many cars have you wrecked?
A few. I wrecked that one.
As long as it's less than how many you've driven.
Oh yeah. I mean, you know, you talk about, like, I'll tell you what happened with that one. We were racing at which is Indianapolis Raceway Park, which is right down the street from Indy.
Okay.
And I was out there, and I went off the track, and I hit a guardrail and broke the upper A arm, the wishbone.
Right.
So, like, you know, Brayton's probably sitting at home going, "Yes, you know,
Money.
'cause, you know, yeah." But we took it. Tom Knapp, who was a great race mechanic, great race car driver, and Mike Cannon, who was my mechanic. We went down to Jackie Hewerton's, it's in Gasoline Alley that night, and the car was so new you couldn't buy the part. So the only way there was no, like,
just go get a quick replacement at the
well, because I
junkyard.
mean, if you had a chassis that everybody had, you could either call them, another team would bring you one, like it would be nothing to go to another trailer saying you have an upper A, you have another wishbone, or you could go to a.
Would they share with you like that?
Oh yeah, they'd give you their engine if they had to. They really do, because that racers
That's nice.
I've gotten in fist fights on the track, but even so, you know, you always listen. When you're risking your life next to each other, you know, this ain't a stick and ball sport. You know, people, I always like to say, you know, you make a mistake in a fast pitch and someone might get a double on you. You make a mistake in a race car, where you catch it just tells you how you survive. You either get through the turn, you break the car, you break your legs, or you break your back. You know, it's not a game. You know, people would die in the old days. But so.
Well, I mean, Ryan Newman was pretty
and
close. So.
I don't want to get into the NASCAR professional wrestling of, you know. Oh, but we can.
Oh.
But hell yeah. I was, you know, I mean, you know.
Yeah, he just said
So
that.
anyway, that
He just said that.
as well. I mean, look what we got here. NASCAR for the last 20 years hasn't had a finish that didn't start with a yellow. I mean, me and my friends used to laugh. I mean, even before they started this, you know, You know,
Thank you.
We had an
What a-
episode a
Thank
couple episodes
you.
ago, and he's like, "The yellows suck." He goes,
They do
"NASCAR's
it-
doing it on purpose."
of course they do. Listen, I used to sell racing marketing. If you're going to sell a television time slot like the Coca-Cola, they say, well, where am I going to fit in? Well, if you're in a National Football League, telecast, they stop the game
Right.
for the commercials. Plus, you're going to have a timeout. You have,
Right.
your quarter. When the hell? I always joke around. So what? I say someone watched the NASCAR race. I go, great. Who did the halftime show?
Oh.
Racing starts with a green flag and ends with a checkered flag. It doesn't go four quarters. I never heard of such a thing.
Yep.
And the other thing I don't get is, well, even 20 years ago, before they did the quarters, we used to laugh. They're going to throw a yellow in at the end. You fit in one more commercial. You tell the advertisers, say, here's the good news. You're buying the largest package from us. We guarantee you're going to get a commercial when everybody's actually watching the race.
Well, what's really funny about that is there's always a yellow flag with like 4 or 5 laps to go,
bunch 'em up.
and it's some dude in the back of the pack. It's never in the front where everybody's racing each other. It's always this guy that's like 30th,
Well,
and he's racing all by himself, and all of a sudden he's got a blowout.
But no, they used to call debris on the track. With 20 laps to go, they want to bunch them up and make an exciting finish and shove a couple commercials in there and get everybody off the couch. I remember I used to watch NASCAR, and my wife would go by and shut, because you're watching 3 hours. She'd shut the TV off. I go, hey, I'm watching that. She goes, you're sleeping. I go, no, but I'm watching it. I can, But
That's my grandfather.
yeah, hey, but
Yo, he used to turn the TV off. He used to scream at you. He'd wake up yelling. Psycho.
So I didn't yell at her, but hey, not for that, but you're gonna start a war in your house, fix something better, But
Fair enough. That's good. That's good. Life
good life lesson, yeah.
Life lesson.
Life coaching.
If you're gonna start a war in your house, start it over something
Yeah,
good.
the older I get, the easier it is to say yes, dear. So yeah. I'm married to a brilliant woman, wonderful woman.
Yeah, it's probably
but
good and bad side to that.
yeah, she'll tell you when you have an argument, love you, baby, but she'll tell you not only what you said, the last, but what your meaning was with each phrase. Like,
What are you, a court stenographer?
right? It's like it's selling that. You're gonna hear that one, Nate, baby. No, I mean, she will tell you I said, yeah, but I didn't know. But what you meant at the time was like, oh,
Jesus.
Christ. I give up. So anyhow, back to NASCAR. I mean, the cars, the new cars are going to be great because they're going to have full suspension. They're going to have real wheels, going to have carbon fiber bodies. They're making them into basically
Race cars?
Race cars. But those guys are world-class drivers. If you ever
Right.
sit there and watch them at 200 miles an hour, bouncing that car around, banging off each other, bump draft and side drafting, the drivers are incredible.
They save some things that I've never thought anybody would save.
They are super talented, and but on the ovals, the road courses, it's funny though. Like they'll bring in, like they used to bring in Boris Said, who raced with us, guy with the big hair.
Yeah.
And, I sit on a plane one time. I go, holy, crap. That's Boris, all right, But that's what would happen was, so you start flying to a racetrack. I'll tell you this. And so you're connecting from all over. I'm coming from Florida. Someone else might be coming from. You meet up in Atlanta. Next thing you know, you're on the final leg of the flight, and now you got all these race car drivers on one plane.
That
might be
gotta be
racing 4 or
crazy.
5 different. They're all going to the track,
Right, but
And,
different types of
yeah, and so the testosterone in the plane is just, it's just,
Yeah.
So I'll tell you a funny story. I was at Indianapolis Raceway Park, and I'm taking out the DB1, and they fly Crosley, who was one of the top chassis for that series, flies in this guy. I'm figuring, man, I'm in the DB1. Nobody can keep up with me. It's
No.
They fly in this guy from Scotland where they're made, and with a brand new chassis. So they bring in. He's the test driver for Crosley, and I'm going to go head to. Now I had been there and raced a couple weeks earlier, so I knew the track. I'm in my own country, but this guy knows that car. This is
He
my
knows
first,
the car.
Yeah, he developed it. I'm
Right.
in the Swift that I've only been in the first time is coming in now. And so I told Mike Cannon and Tom Knapp. I said, listen, we go out for qualifying. I go, oh, so the night before I had wrecked the car. I had ran the guardrail. I hit a guardrail, right?
All right.
They take me to Jackie Ewerton's, I go back to this shop, and I'm like a fan no matter what,
Yeah.
Like And I'm in a shop with the world's greatest mechanics. These guys are built Tom Sneeva's Indy cars in there. They got it taped off with, this is the old days, with like pinstripe tape.
Right.
They've gridded it all off so that they can measure every inch of it to duplicate and make another one. They literally
That's so
made,
crazy because
right?
they didn't have computers to redo it.
No, they got, these are craftsmen wearing leather aprons, banging out and, riveting cars together, And I'm sitting
awesome.
there and I'm just awed by it all. And the guy goes, "Oh, you need one of these?" And I go, "Yeah." And he goes, "All right, well, I got the stock here and I can do that." Yeah. Come back tomorrow morning, $300. And we couldn't have gotten it there. I wouldn't have made the race because you would have had Swift, who would have had the FedEx one. It just never got there.
Right.
And nobody
He
had
custom made you one.
right there that night. The next morning, I come out. The guys had went to the shop like 7 a.m, picked up the part, put the car back together because it was just
Holy
a one
shit.
A-arm. And I go out there and I'm blistering and I go, I just time. McCracken, I think his name was Mac McCracken or something like that. Well, this stuff sounds good. And so they go, "Well, you don't want to time anybody else?" I go, "No, I'm either going to get on pole or he's going to get on pole." And so I'm out there and I got him by like a half a second. They're holding up the sign.
Right.
Remember
Nice.
back then, we didn't have any radio.
No, you're hanging out
And
the
by the
pit
way,
wall.
it's to this day everybody still uses.
Yeah, they still do it.
Yeah,
Even with all the radios.
That's the way it is. So, and I'm beating them. Next thing I know, I come around and I'm a half a second down. And
Wow.
I go, he pulled it out. So I go, "That's it. I'm putting my head down and I'm going to
Give it one last go.
Yeah, because my tires are going to start going away. They
Right.
have like 10 laps before you start loosening your tires. You got to heat them up and cool them, So I go through turn 1, turn 2, turn 3, and I'm just focused. And all of a sudden, this is again, everything happening in slow motion.
Yeah.
I smell the smell of fresh cut grass. And I'm thinking, fresh cut grass.
That's
That reminds me of Sunday morning when my dad used to cut the yard, and I look up and there's a car spinning out right in front of me.
Oh.
And what he should have done is the driver should have, in that series, that type of car, you let off the gas. Sometimes you drive through it.
Yeah.
But, he kept his foot in and he just shot right across the track and I T-boned him.
Oh.
And both cars just exploded. And I remember getting out of the car and I was standing up and I laid down and an ambulance comes and they put me in the ambulance and I hear the ambulance driver and I got the neck brace on and everything. I knew I was okay because I got myself out of the car, but I could have been in shock.
Right.
I went to get up and they're like, "You're not moving."
Yeah.
The corner
Damn.
workers are like, "Stand right."
Yeah, when
don't
they tell you don't move,
Yeah, they're
it's
saying
usually
you're not moving. So
looks pretty gnarly.
So the ambulance driver goes, "Where's the rest of the drivers?" And he goes, the guy next to me, I don't know who it was, goes, "There's only a 2-car accident." And the guy goes like this, "Oh my God." And I'm like, "What?" And
how much debris was all over?
but here's the thing: the cars are like, even the guy whispered to him, "It's not as bad." The cars are meant; they have shear plates on all the axles,
Right.
so they're meant.
To
An
break
open wheel
apart.
car is meant to it's meant to take the energy away from the cockpit by dispersing it through the energy gets dispersed by the parts breaking off, the shear plates they call them,
Right.
and it breaks off all the wheels and everything. So here's the funny story. So I go to the Methodist Hospital where the IndyCar crew is from, like the greatest racing hospital. You're going to get in an accident, you want to do it in Indy and go to Methodist. And I got my Methodist card now. So, here's the funny story. Right before we went out for qualifying, it's another little tidbit. The chief steward goes, "We're going to pick qualifying." He breaks out a deck of
Like bicycle cards?
yeah. And he goes, "Pick a card." And whoever gets the highest card goes out first. So I pull out
Scientific.
the card and I get the ace of spades. I'm thinking, "Hey, I won."
Yeah.
I turn around, I show it to the other drivers. You would have thought that I had a cross and they were vampires. They're all like, no. I go, "What? This is not, what? Come on. I don't play cards."
Right.
I take it, I zip it, I put it in my top pocket. I go out. So I get in this bad wreck. I'm in IRP. I'm in Methodist Hospital. Mike Cannon comes in and we're all sitting there, and the nurse comes in. It's like Candy Striper. So I go, I'm thinking, I'm in I'm a race car driver.
Yeah.
I'm in a suit.
Days of Thunder.
Yeah,
She's going to make out
Days
with
of
me.
Thunder hasn't come out yet.
Oh, so
And
they
I
got it from you.
Wait, and I start hitting on the chick, and I'm, and she, she puts up with all my crap and kind of puts me in my place. And Mike says, I'll take that card, And it turns out he should have, because I got shot down twice that day.
Oh, jeez.
Right? And this story's in the book, so I didn't want to be. So I realized watching Days of Thunder when, again, that same scenario, and Mike turns into me and goes, "Buddy, that's the doctor." I go, oh, shit. Oh, man. So when you watch Days of Thunder, you see the exact same scene, basically.
Yeah.
And I said in the book, I said, I don't know if it's just the egomaniac, testosterone-driven race car drivers so
Right.
cliche,
Right.
or it's that they put it in a B movie to be is it really that that whole persona of type A plus personality, ego-driven, adrenaline-driven.
Right.
If you don't think you can do it, you don't think that you're the best, you shouldn't really go out there.
Are almost all drivers that way? Do they all think that they're the best, and that's like a
you
mentality
want
you
to
have
think
to have?
that you do have the mentality it's never going to happen to you.
So I know that. Well,
Not that you're the best, because guys that are better than you. You're working your craft.
so there are people like up there in the ranks that are like, I might not be the best, but I'm good enough to be here, kind of thing.
Yeah, I think you just think that you're either I was never the best. I mean, there's always somebody better, but there's some guys that just supernatural talents or have great racecraft, but you're always working on your craft, right? So you're trying to be the best at that day in your car, and then you want to beat everybody that's around you. You don't want to give in to anybody. You want to give an inch.
Go ahead.
What's your opinion on gentleman drivers? Because they're still around. They're still paying to race. I mean,
I would say that's what we all are. If you're either being paid to race or you're paying to race, it's one of the most cruelest sports because everybody has to have money. Very few people are paid drivers. Think about it. There's 100, maybe 200 in the world. What I mean? Think about it.
Yeah,
Really,
there's not many people that can
there's
do
30 something IndyCar drivers. There's 30 something NASCAR drivers. There's 20 Formula One drivers, and then there's all the appendages of other races and like the different series. But maybe there's 200 or 300.
Well, a lot of those other series, you get like Formula 4, 3, and 2. Like those are young kids,
Right?
They're like
and they're not getting paid.
No,
well,
they
their sponsors are putting it out.
the money.
But you look at like IMSA and WEC, they have certain
They have
classes.
series where you have to have a gentleman driver.
to have a gentleman driver.
So I mean, that's okay. I mean, doesn't mean they're not good. Look,
Exactly.
I mean, wouldn't you say that Randy Lanier was a gentleman driver? He paid his own
Right.
way, and he won the GTP championship.
Right.
So think back before Niki Lauda, right? Most drivers were gentle. When racing started, it was a gentleman driver. It was either a manufacturer like Ford or Ferrari or Honda that wanted to prove their cars. I mean, the founder of Honda built a motorcycle, took it to Isle of Man, and won the race just to prove how good his motorcycle was.
Yeah.
I mean, think about that. Here's he going against all the best, and Isle of Man's a place where you die on a motorcycle if you mess up.
multiple people a year usually.
Yeah.
If you've never seen the Isle of Man TT, you should look it up.
Yeah, it's crazy. So I think that, and then right around the 70s, real the talent was starting to come out of the rich, good old, look at NASCAR. NASCAR is a bunch of rum runners or moonshiners.
Yeah.
And those guys, Junior Johnson and that, they had talent, but they also they built their race cars. They showed up. They were racers, but there was a time when it just switched. Now, like I said, I had a gentleman call me the other day to look into buying my last Miata. I had 3 of them. And his kid is like a phenom. You listen to what he said. The kid started his first race and finished 9 seconds in front of everybody else.
Damn.
I'm
Jeez.
like, holy. And, and then people are, starting to grab onto him and bring him along and try to give him little jobs in the shop. And, he's working his way up from the very ground up. Mm-hmm. And that's, that's amazing. But somebody has to put some money behind the kid.
Yeah.
Right.
Danny Sullivan, who spin and win the Indy 500.
Okay.
The story goes, and I don't know if I have it right, but Garvin Brown, who's the heir to the Kentucky, Jack Daniels. Sorry.
Oh.
He's the heir to Jack Daniels. So he was friends with
Damn.
Danny.
How do we meet that guy?
Yeah. I don't know if he's still around. He might be. Well, this is a long time ago, but Danny's
Jack
deal.
Daniels is still around, though.
Yeah. That's what you got to
You know it well, don't
Yeah.
you?
So Danny's deal supposedly with Garvin Brown was that he would finance his racing career. He went to Formula One for a year, came back here.
Right.
But for that, he would get 10% of whatever Danny made for the, like an agent.
Yeah,
for the rest
yeah.
of his life, which was a good deal for Garvin. But because Danny did well. But again, he had an angel. He had someone putting money behind him.
Right.
So
I think you need that now. You can't move up in racing without some kind of money, whether it's your
the
own, your
gentleman
family
drivers.
money.
And listen, I have friends that are gentleman drivers, and they're fast. They're really fast.
But
What's
it's
that
either
actor that's doing it now?
Patrick Dempsey.
No. The other one. There's another one. Not Dempsey. I know Dempsey's been in it for a while.
Yeah.
Actually, Dempsey and him were in the same car at one point. But he's hold on. Michael Fassbender.
yes,
He's
Yes,
racing
he
for
is.
Porsche.
Is he
Yeah.
good?
Yeah, he's so well. No, actually, what happened was he's like, you know what, I want to race. So he goes out and he has professional drivers that are actually in that race Le Mans and all those other WEC and
Right.
IMSA, and he has the professional driver actually with him. I can't remember the driver's name right now. And
Raced for Ferrari. It says here.
well, it's on Netflix. It's a Porsche. He's got a
Might
series
have
on.
switched team.
Yeah, he's got a series on Netflix where
He's
he's
probably
racing
doing
with
the
a Porsche.
Ferrari challenge or something.
Well, the guy's he's getting better. It's weird because you could watch him from race one. He makes stupid mistakes, and he'll tell you like, yeah, he's like, I actually like when I made the decision, I knew it was dumb. I shouldn't have done it. And then by like the fifth episode or whatever's out now, I'm like, you could see him
His racecraft
visibly
getting
getting better.
better, yeah.
So I think yes, you could be taught to race. I think everybody can be like trained to do it, but I also think that there has to be a little bit of a like just natural God-given skill.
Well, I tell you, actors have been in racing for years. Gene, who was it? James Gardner, Rockford Files. The Smothers Brothers entered Indy. I think one of the Smothers Brothers was in Indy. A lot of guys have done it.
James
Newman.
Dean did it. Ryan Newman did it.
Yeah.
Not Ryan.
Paul Newman was great.
Paul Newman.
So, also, there was a couple other guys I'm trying to think of off the top of my head. But well, I mean, you wouldn't remember him. It was from an old television show. But a couple guys. I think Fernando Lamas raced,
Okay.
or Lorenzo, his son, not Fernando.
All right.
Which one's whatever the younger?
I don't know, my dad and my mother don't know what you're
Yeah,
talking
exactly.
about.
So, hey, you're rubbing in the age thing. Hey, I look good for my years. Hey, so
Look better than me.
hey, I don't know about that, but here's a 20. But I think there's a very interesting parallel. It must be the concentration or the timing.
Right.
Look at who was it that won Dancing with the Stars? Lives right here in town. One of my big heroes. I'm going. He's running
Wow.
Yeah.
Look that up, bro.
You know who I'm talking about. He's racing in Indy this year. He's a Penske driver.
It's not Alonso. He didn't do that. No, it's
No,
I can't remember.
it's going to come right to my head as you say it.
Dancing with the Stars race car driver?
Yeah, Castroneves, Helio Castroneves.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, he won. He won it, and Heathcliff, James Heathcliff came in second doing
Right.
it. So I mean, here's another IndyCar driver.
Yep.
So there's something. Here's the I'll just point something out that both Dancing with the Stars and the Indy 500 are both on ABC. So you think it'd be great cross marketing if a husband and wife are watching both the Indy 500 and the
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, so
but then again, that's
they still did it.
well, you remember we were talking about the concentration
Emmett
level.
Smith did it. He won. You know.
There you go. And we were talking before the show started about the concentration level. And now that I'm thinking about it, like you remember I brought up how I watched that thing where I don't remember what day, but I watched that thing where it's old joke, where to the people who smuggle drugs and the people who race a car have the same kind of concentration level. They're cool under pressure. And now that you think about it, actors are kind of the same way.
Yeah, true.
So they're cool under pressure. Always, all eyes on them.
Yeah.
They're able to just turn it on and go. So that kind of makes sense why a lot of actors would be able to
They're very
switch over
talented.
and
I
be
mean,
race car drivers.
Back to what you were saying about the smugglers versus it really is so true. I mean, you're in a situation where you find out, things that have happened. I can't get, that, the plane's broken down or, we had a situation one time where we smuggled a load of weed into St. Pete Airport.
Okay.
And we've got two guys waiting for the plane. My buddy's uncle, who's this old, never done this before in his life. I'm going, Uncle Ralph's going to fly a plane load of weed out of Jamaica.
Hell yeah. Go Uncle Ralph.
Uncle Ralph was so I'm sitting in this hotel. It was actually the Playboy Club in downtown St. Pete with binoculars and a radio watching everything, And I'm sitting there and I got about 30 grand. We had some, in case money that I was watching. And I looked down and Uncle Ralph had an old Volvo 240.
Okay.
The cars,
Yeah.
ugly, but they're safe.
Yeah.
Great cars.
Run them into a tree and the tree will fall down.
I love them. I sold a bunch of them. So I looked. Actually, my friend, one of the guys that used to run weed for us, had an old Volvo with a Grateful Dead sticker on the back window, and the fish,
Yeah.
And I used to say, cops would pull up right behind him and go, and here's this hippie driving. They go, well, he's got the fish. Just pull off. Who said marijuana and God aren't one? You know what I mean? Look at the Grateful Dead sticker. No. For some reason, I feel like we should back off. But I don't know why. Light shining in.
Thank you, Jesus.
Exactly. So I swear to God. So I'm looking, and all of a sudden I see coming down the street Uncle Ralph's Volvo, doing about 70, 80 miles an hour, top speed, no doubt, and 5 cop cars with the lights all around it. And so every time I hit a cross street, I see Uncle Ralph's Volvo go airborne, and sparks, and then the cop cars going airborne. And I'm sitting there with the radio like this, just...
It's like a movie.
And I see the passenger door open. I see my buddy Lee trying to jump out because, we're all... By the way, these are all high school kids.
Right.
These are all kids that we just never knew we'd get to this. We always knew, but nobody knew we'd end up in our early, 19 and 20.
In a Blues Brothers car chase.
Yeah, we just thought we would... Nobody ever thought selling a couple joints would end up moving 300,000 pounds or whatever it ended up being. So
Jesus.
So
one thing, that's the ultimate. One thing led to another.
Right. Hey, guys talk, and next thing you know, so
you wreck a rear end, and you need to sell another 100 tons.
So I see the car go by, and I see all the cop cars, and I go. So we had a getaway car, and everybody knew if anything happens, you go downstairs. It's parked in this parking lot. It's a getaway car. I grab the walkie-talkie. I run up a couple flights of stairs. I wrap it in newspaper. I stuff it behind some pipes. I know they're going to find it later, but I don't want to be walking out of the hotel with about 30 grand in a backpack and a walkie-talkie. So I walk right out of the hotel, jump into the getaway car, grab the key, and drive off. And we stashed the rest of the drivers that were going to take the load out outside the area, outside the smuggle zone. Right. We put them up, 30 minutes down the road in a little cheap hotel.
Right.
They're all pissed off. Because, how come we can't stay at the Playboy Club? Because you're not, your job is here. It's the one thing about running dope and smuggling is everybody has a job. Everybody knows their job. There's no hierarchy. Whoever's in charge is, I don't care how much money I have.
Yeah.
If we're doing it, and that's the same thing in racing. You have a job, and your job is to do your job. And it doesn't matter if your baby's born. I've seen guys, babies born, and they're at the track, and they're not even the drivers. You dedicate yourself to that sport. Like any sport.
Yep.
So anyhow, Uncle Ralph, I guess they loaded the car they had loaded the truck with all the weed.
Right.
So now Uncle Ralph's sitting there, and he has no way to leave because they took his car. Every cop chased the car, and Ralph's sitting there and goes. So he's like a 60-year-old guy. He starts the pickup truck and drives out with the load of weed. He's like 700 pounds of weed in the car, and he just leaves. And so we find out when we all go to we think, in all fairness, all our friends are in jail. We lost the load. Uncle Ralph's in jail.
Just imagine 6-year-old Uncle Ralph.
You didn't know what, but he had no experience. He didn't know enough to run. He just knew there was only one way out, and that was in the car, the pickup truck, loaded with weed. Had he had more experience, he might have gotten caught.
Yeah. Right.
So he pulls out and he goes to the second stash house. We go and we all meet at the hotel, and we're like, oh man, all of a sudden the phone rings. It's Uncle Ralph. He's got the load. None of us got busted.
Fucking Uncle Ralph.
Scotty Bayless got caught, and they charged him with something stupid because they caught him with the car. Lee jumped
there's
out,
nothing in it. So
no, and the plane. Uncle Ralph had the FOB, what they call it, fixed base FBO, fixed base operation.
Okay.
Where you're playing. So his crew there. The DEA stickered all the planes, so you can't open it, right? So they can go back and search in the morning.
Yeah.
But they didn't realize that there was a door on the back of the plane, a luggage door. So they opened up the luggage door because it wasn't stickered, went in, vacuumed the whole plane out, cleaned out everything, maybe slid the seats back in, who knows, and closed it back up.
There you go.
So there was no way of knowing, So that's one of those little stories that's in the book.
We're going to have to call it for tonight, but we have to have you back.
We got to save some for next time.
Yeah, we have to save some for next time.
Pleasure.
Well, we really appreciate you coming back.
Great. Well, I hope I touched enough I stayed focused enough for you.
No,
to get
this
some
was
racing
great.
information.
This was an awesome show, and
Thanks,
I
man.
really
Thanks,
appreciate
guys.
you coming
I
down.
really appreciate
I hope
guys
you
having
enjoyed
me.
it.
Yeah.
I do. Anytime I can talk about myself, come on.
So
It's that opportunity.
don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. We're gonna have Ken back. We're definitely gonna talk some more. Go into some maybe some crazy stories that he's got, because I'm sure he's got a ton. Do you know when the book's gonna come out?
Well, I'm just finishing it now. Then it has to go to. It has to be edited.
Okay.
So I'm working. I have a publisher that's waiting on it.
Well,
But I don't know which way I'll go with it, that publisher or somebody else. But
I'll say stay tuned to Bearded Garagistas' social media, and when it does come out, Ken will let us know,
Yeah.
and we'll blast it out to you guys. You guys can
Absolutely.
read his book and get all the crazy stories. But we're gonna
South Florida stories and the racing stories.
Yeah, we're definitely going to have you come back.
Well,
so
thanks, man.
we appreciate you guys joining us. Bearded Garagistas, the new website, beardedgaragistas.com, is live. It's redesigned. It's going through some changes here and there. Things are still working. Still promise, YouTube is coming. I know it's been a little bit of a wait, but trust me, when it comes around, it's going to be something to see. The new shop store will be up soon as well. We're working on some things with...
We're waiting on the state of Florida.
Waiting on the state of Florida.
That's
But
what
as soon
we're
as the
waiting
state
on.
of Florida gets their thumb out of their ass, I mean that with no disrespect, state of Florida, because I know you're listening.
Better edit that.
But I'm going to leave that. But yeah, so we're just waiting on that. We'll have the shop up. We'll have the merchandise going again. Another awesome excitement, which I've already put out on Instagram today. We have the podcast with an RSS feed and a subscribe. You could actually make an account on beardedgaragistas.com. You could subscribe to the podcast. You could listen to the episodes there. And they also have links to all of our other platforms. Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, SoundCloud is on there. But SoundCloud, don't use SoundCloud there.
Oh, man, come on.
I'm not a fan. Not a fan. But yeah, really appreciate you guys coming on. Check out the new website and everything that's on it. There's a lot of information on that website. Reach out to us if you want. There's a contact page. There's a chat. You could actually chat with us.
Yep.
So yeah, beardedgaragistas.com. Check it out. Ken, I really appreciate you coming by.
Thanks, Katherine.
Brett, I appreciate you coming by.
Oh, I like it.
All right, we'll see you guys later.
Yeah,
Peace.
Great stuff. Great
Bye.
stuff. Thank you.